So hello guys, welcome back to Taftim Esports. So we have here Pong to discuss the Fire Nuker build. Okay, let's start. So Pong, why did you choose this build?
Basically, this build is easy because there are a lot of cards and gears that can boost your fire damage, especially for skills. Um, fire skill, you can have Sight Blaster, Meteor, and Crimson. If you have GTB, get Fireball. If not, go for Tetra. Um, for equipments, for weapon, I build Crimson, which I think is the best defensive weapon that can Warlock have, since it has fire damage resistance. And since I'm using Fire Nuker, I think it's for fire skills. It just has little difference than using Thorn Stuff and Sinister for fire only. For armor, I think my build was Warlock armor, since Warlock armor is not hard to craft and it basically has more magic defense than a craftable gears. For headgear, I also use Warlock also, since it has more magic defense. You can go for Ago. I think Ago is the best headgear that you can have for all jobs. For cloak, I use the one that has fire damage increase, since my build was all fire. For necklace, I use black brooch, something like that the name. Dex and magic attack. I think it's the only one
With magic
the
attack.
best. Yes. For ring, I think it's much better if you can go for a craftable one than using chaos ring, since a craftable one has magic defense, aside unlike ring of chaos, it's purely attack and magic attack. Advantage of this build, I think it's, like I said earlier, the best defensive weapon and versatile on defensive end, since like I said, instant stop have fire damage assist, adding up the buff of Sight Blaster. You can get 2 fire damage assist. So in PvP, you don't need to put up fire element on your armor. Just put up wind element on armor, since wind decreases wind and water damage. Just ignore the earth elements, since there are only few to none using it in PvP. You can also see the other jobs. There's no earth element skills, especially for Warlock. Also, using Sinister or Thorn Stuff, you can lose if someone uses a counter for armor, since this build can only counter one element when using Thorn or Sinister. Also, the advantages of this build: before merge, it costs only 1 KR our opponents, unlike the other rares which cost 2k ROP. It could take years before transcending. Also, the supply also a factor. Disadvantage of this build: your damage on element is predictable, since you can only go for fire and you cannot counter the element of their armor, unlike using Sinister or Thorn Stuff, which I think those two staffs are the best offensive weapon that you can use on Warlocks. Since using these two weapons, you can go for fire, wind, and water. So I think it's just up to you which would you like, defensive or offensive build. For me, I prefer defensive build. Since I aim PvP rankings, you can, there are only few options on boosting your defensive stats. Unlike your damage, you can easily boost using infinite Ifrit, Captain Sherlock card on your weapon.
Thanks for that in-depth explanation, Pong. How about the cards? Can you explain why you picked these cards?
For weapon, I put two Captain Sherlock cards and two Lunatic cards. My two Lunatic cards are max, while the other two CFCs are just semi-max. I tried using 3 CFCs Captain Sherlock, but the damage is not that. It just have a little difference on damage output,
Mm.
and also the difficulty of upgrading Captain Sherlock is just for every 10 levels, 2 growths. It's hard. Unlike having Lunatic, you can just go straight. My in my experience, my one Lunatic card only takes 3 restored up to level 100, 120. For armor, I use 2 savage, 2 TGK, or 3 savage, 1 TGK. Why I use this is that I think savage is the best card. You just have to mix it up with TGK to boost your HP slightly, but savage gives also the percentage. You just have to focus on its beat, so your HP will not go down largely.
Question
My
regarding the armor cards. Why is high T card not on your option? It gives MDef percentage.
Since I'm using Crimson stuff, I have a fire damage resist, adding up my buff, which is Sight Blaster, and my element on armor. My element on armor is wind, so which decreases water and wind attacks, right? So
Okay.
so magic, with those magic skills won't at least one hit me on PvP, since like I said, I aim only for PvP rankings. Also high T, I think it's hard to upgrade, and only few supplies that have a max def high T, unlike
Yes.
Savage and TGK.
Okay.
For headgear, I choose for OH. Why I use for OH? Simply it's because of its HP percentage. I just really want at least 160k on PvP. So I have at least those magic builds don't one hit me. I think 150 150 to 170 KHP is good.
And
Um,
and also because of your VIT stat, it boosts the HP more.
oh yes, yes. I really if I can add up more HP. If I can add up more HP, I think I would I would go for 3 OH and 1 infinite GTB to at least to at least boost my magic defense. But since I aim at least 150 KHP, I use for OH.
Mm.
Uh, for cloak, um, I think it's the best if you have a vocal. But at the moment, I'm using Salamander card. Why? Since Meteor is still in the meta, you can see the stats of Salamander cards which have fire damage increase and meteor damage increase and also fire pillar. Those three those three stats are still in use right now. But if Pit Job opens, I would go for vocal max magic attack. I've tested a 100 semi-max level 100 semi-max Salamander um, versus the vocal max magic attack level 100. If not Meteor, vocal gives more damage. So if Jump Pip opens, Meteor is, I think I will not get Meteor. So I think it's good if you go for vocal. For my place, I think there's no other good cards other than mastering.
Yes.
And for ring, it's basically infinity crit, two stats, magic attack and magic attack percentage.
Um. So regarding the cloak, because Felrock gives default stats and movement speed, is it part of your consideration?
Um, I think for me, it's better to have the crafted one which gives fire damage increase. If you in PvP, because in PvP there are shadow chasers which have shadow formation. You can damage them until that buff is gone. So having a good movement speed, if you um if you cast a skill and he's still in shadow form, he will not take damage. So I use slower move speed. So before I use skill or hit, his shadow formation is gone.
Can you share your experience on the hardships in PvP using this build?
Hardships on PvP. Um, those who have builds, since I only have 4 masterings on my equips, I don't have Mami card since only if I need it. I don't need the attack. So I think it's waste to use Mami. So I just choose 500 decks. Then it's up to RNG, not RNG. If miss, then lose. If hit, then win. 50-50.
So guys, here's a sample video for the PvP. So let's watch. So Pong, thank you for sharing this build. This build will be used as inspiration to other warlocks out there who are trying to be on top of PvP.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you also. Thank you. Shout out to all of my guild. Unholy guild. Stay strong.
Okay guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in the next video.